promise, I'll just give you some more context. It'll make the car even more interesting, I promise. Okay? So everyone please get nice and close over here. Wait till everyone is here. Okay, so today, right now, we're going to talk about Franz Ferdinand. He is the Archduke of the Empire at this time. Why is he so important? What does this have to do with Sarajevo? I told you the Empire is really interested in symbolic representation. Okay? So what happens is that on the 28th of June 1914, him, Franz Ferdinand, his wife, a couple of officers travel down to Sarajevo, to Bosnia, to represent, to show flag, to be there, to be seen, like royals today, to do like this and be seen, everyone is happy while they're there. Not actually to do anything, right? They're not to change any politics there. They're just to be there to be seen. They do a tour of the city. In this car, which we will get to, they do this tour through the city. I promised some people are unhappy with how the system works. The Muslims generally of Bosnia-Herzegovina are very happy because they're treated quite well actually. The Orthodox, the Serbian Orthodox population of Bosnia, they're mostly unhappy. There's this new state called Serbia now, out of the old Ottoman Empire, and they want Bosnia to be part of it. We'll talk about these people a little bit later, but first we'll just talk about what they're doing in the city. So we'll look at this map over here, please. They're traveling with their car. They're driving along the city. You can imagine all the people outside waving, cheering them on and all this. They're driving here, right? They're driving along. They're passing by this bridge here, this bridge down here. What happens? There's a guy in the crowd. He's wearing his coat. He walks towards the slowly driving by car. He reaches inside his coat, takes out a grenade, and he throws the grenade at the car. If the car is lucky, the grenade doesn't fall into the car, it slides off the car, falls to the side, explodes, but it's a grenade, so there's shrapnel, little metal fragments, right? These metal fragments hit two officers in the car. They are gravely wounded. The Archduke, his wife, they're completely fine. But of course it's an assassination attempt, so there's chaos now. There's chaos everywhere, right? Police start moving in everywhere. This assassin is quickly captured. They quickly speed away towards the city center to safety, right? And so they speed here along, and what they don't notice is that there's another man with a coat waiting for them. They don't see him reaching into his pocket. He holds a grenade, he's about to pull it out, but then he puts it back in again. He's scared. There's police everywhere. There's military everywhere now. He can't do it, right? He's too nervous to. He can't do it. So he walks away. The car speeds on. They don't notice that this happened here. They speed on, and then they get the message, well, these two officers that were brought away, that are gravely injured in the hospital now, they're not really doing well. And he hears that, and he says, well, what am I here for? My mission here is to represent, to be seen. So I want to go to the hospital and be seen taking care of my officers. So he decides, okay, even though it's dangerous outside, we're going to return the car and we're going to move back this way. So in the meantime, this assassin here, and we'll hear much more about who that is, yeah? This assassin, he's sad. He's sad because he didn't have the nerve to go through with this assassination. And he goes to a cafe right here on the corner, buys a sandwich, sits down outside and starts eating. Maybe crying into a sandwich, I don't know. But he's sad because he couldn't do it. He didn't have the strength, he didn't have the nerve to do it. Well, what happens now? The Archduke and his car, they drive by him. They take a wrong turn. We have to understand these cities back then, they're not made for cars. These streets are very narrow, so they make a wrong turn, they don't know where to go, they make a wrong turn here, and they get stuck. These cars are hard to turn, they get stuck, they don't know where to go, and they get stuck right in front of the assassin eating his sandwich. You can imagine, he's eating his sandwich, he puts it down, he sees them in front of him, he can't believe his luck, they're there again. This is his chance. And this time he stands up, he reaches into his pocket again, he doesn't choose the grenade this time. He reaches into his pocket, takes out a pistol. He walks only a couple of steps, pointing the pistol, and he fires 2 shots. See what happens with those 2 shots if we turn around and look at the car now. Yeah? Red line, don't reach over it, there'll be an alarm, and then we'll all get in trouble, me included. Please, no reaching over the red line. Yeah? So this is, of course, the original car that the Archduke was in at the moment. His wife was in at the moment. You can imagine them sitting back here at the very end, and we can already see where one of the bullets entered the car. Right there, you can see it. That's the first shot loosened by the assassin. So you can imagine where you are standing here, right there, sir. He's having this gun in his hand. He walks towards them, fires the first shot. The first shot enters the car over there and hits the wife of the Archduke, Sophie, right here in the stomach. She basically dies immediately. She dies almost immediately. He's sitting next to her. He gets the next shot in his neck. He lives long enough to see his wife die, who he loved very much. He lives long enough to see her die. He even says something about her pleas trying to live for our kids. It's very tragic. Yeah? He lives just long enough to see her die and then dies himself from his wound. They are still rushed to the hospital just in case, but nothing can be done for them at this point. They're both dead, and we actually also have his uniform that he was wearing at the time. So if we turn around, we can look at that over here. If we look closely here at the uniform, you can even see here, this way, where the bullet hit him in the neck. Yeah, this is white, turning around, and you can see there, it's on the uniform. When they reached the hospital and they found out, well, they're dead actually, they immediately knew this is a monumentous occurrence. We need to preserve this uniform, we need to preserve the car, we need to do everything to make sure people remember this event. Right? But why is it so important? Yes, the Archduke is dead, yes, the heir to the throne is dead, but how does this become a world war? How does one assassination lead to a world war? And I saved on the details about the assassins, but now we need to talk about who actually killed him. Why did they kill him? And for that, we'll move over there. There's a Serbian Orthodox citizen of Bosnia. He was a nationalist for Serbia. He wanted Bosnia to be part of this new Serbian state. He was part of a terrorist group, an assassin group called Mlada Bosna. Mlada Bosna basically means young Bosnia. Young, why? There's a lot of nationalist movements called Young Germany, Young Italy. This was Young Bosnia, that was his group. Young Bosnia, Mlada Bosna, was in turn funded by another assassin group, by another terrorist group called the Black Hand, very ominous name. They were a Serbian group. A Serbian group intended to terrorize Austria, to take these parts away and form a greater Serbia. So they gave money, they gave material to Mlada Bosna. But it gets even more complicated than that because the Black Hand itself was funded by the Serbian state itself. And now that's where it gets really complicated, because now you have one state funding terrorism to kill the heir of another state. And that's how World War I will start. Yeah? But about the assassins, we can see here the pistols and the type of grenade that they used. One of these pistols might be Gavrilo Princip's himself. We don't know exactly which one. One of them might be it. So these are the weapons that they used at the very time. Gavrilo Princip will be captured after these two shots and put in basically a dark dungeon for the rest of his life. He will die before World War I ends. Yeah? So he is immediately captured, tortured, and then dies in this dungeon. But he's still seen as a hero in Serbia, so there's still statues of him if you go to Belgrade, for example. Yeah? But that is the fate of the assassins. But now let's look at the fate of Europe. How does this explode into a Europe-wide war? For that, we'll move along here. Lightning bolts, what does this all mean? I'll break it down for you. It's actually very simple. So here in the middle, we have Austria-Hungary. Right here, we have Serbia. Austria-Hungary, after this assassination, sends an ultimatum to Serbia. There are a couple of points on there. None of them are really important as the last point. The last point says, we want our police, Austro-Hungarian police, to be able to go to Serbia to find out exactly what happened. That is a requirement. And Serbia agrees to every other point except that one and says, no, we will have our own police solve this crime. Austria-Hungary says that is not acceptable. If you don't accept our terms, we will invade. But Serbia Well, Serbia has a friend. Serbia has Russia as its friend. They're both Slavic countries, they're both Orthodox countries. Russia sees itself as the big brother of all Slavic countries, especially of Serbia. And Russia says, well, Austria-Hungary, if you invade here, we're going to invade here. But Austria-Hungary also has a friend. They have the newly formed Germany. Germany, they were enemies before as Prussia, now they're called Germany, they've unified this land, they are friends now. And Austria-Hungary says, hey, Germany, if Russia attacks you, please help me. Well, now Russia has to fight these two countries, so Russia says, well, I also have a friend, I have France on my side. And France really wants to fight Germany. Why do they want to fight Germany? Well, because of this place here, Elsass-Lothringen, Alsace-Lorraine. The Prussians, they took this part of France away from France to form their new empire. In France, this was a most traumatic event. It was actually so traumatic, in school, there were maps of the world, was this part here covered by an ink spot, la tache noire, the black spot was right here. Because kids, it was said as too traumatic for kids to even learn about their country being dissolved like this, being taken away. So kids would learn from a young age, we have to fight Germany because they're so evil, it's so evil we can't even look at it in a map. So France is really ready to fight Germany. Okay, so now Austria and Germany, they're fighting France, they're fighting Russia. Well, but there are two more countries here colored in blue and in pink. What do they have to do with this? Well, Italy was actually also allied with Hungary. I mean, Austria-Hungary. But Italy basically interpreted their alliance like the NATO Article 5. They said, well, if you're attacked, Austria-Hungary, we'll come and defend you. But you're not being attacked. You're invading Serbia. It's a bit like the Iran war today. You know, Trump says, hey, we need help. NATO come to our aid. And NATO says, well, sorry, you invaded first. We're not going to help you. So Italy sees no obligation to help Austria-Hungary, to help Germany. And actually, they see this part over here. They see this part over here and say, well, there are a lot of Italians living in Dalmatia, in southern Tyrol. Wouldn't it be nice if these were parts of a greater Italy? So actually Italy will then switch sides and join France and join Russia. UK is a bit more complicated. They are allied in a way with them, but they also interpret it as like a NATO thing. And they're like, well, Russia and France, you're attacking, actually we have nothing to do with Serbia, we don't care about them, we don't want to join. But something changes. Germany says, okay, we have to fight two of these people at the same time. How do I do it? Two-front war, impossible. Well, I'm going to march my army through Belgium. It's flatlands, it's literally below lands. It's much easier to march an army through than here. There's hills and forests here. We're going to march our army through here, and we're going to attack Paris like this. Aha, but the UK and Belgium, they are best friends. And it's a neutral country, like Switzerland. So UK says, well, if you're going to invade Belgium, we're going to join France, we're going to join Russia. And there's one more player, and that's the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, like I said, dissolving at this point. They see a possibility to take back land in Greece, maybe in Serbia. So they join also Austria-Hungary, and they join Germany at the same time. So this, you have the Central Powers here, and you have the Entente, the Triple Entente over here, with Italy joining at this side. It's basically one big Mexican standoff turned into a world war. Everyone pointing guns at each other, one guy fires, everything explodes. Okay, that was a lot of heavy politics, a lot of looking at maps. We'll look at how this war looked like right now. We'll zoom in again. Zoom in on the lowest level and how soldiers are fighting. So for that, please follow me, we'll walk over there. I said we'll zoom into how was war fought now. Well, it's a revolution in military technology, to put it in a short way. We begin the war with cavalry, with colorful uniforms, but actually this is what will decide the war.
What will decide the war is artillery.
Built by Skoda. Guys who make the cars.
Skoda.
Artillery as well.
Skoda.
Yeah, Skoda.
Great.
They built these artillery pieces. They were the #1 supplier of Austria-Hungary at the time. Yeah? Why is this so important? Well, the guns get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The technology is evolving really, really quickly. These guns here, they fire 740, 750 kilo shells. It takes 12 people to load and fire this thing. 12 people. Yeah? And this isn't even the biggest gun. There'll be a gun made in the war built by the Germans, the Paris gun. It takes 200 people to load. That thing fires 1.5-ton shells. So guns get bigger, they get more and more powerful. and the experience of the individual soldier gets worse and worse and worse. And as an example, we look over here, this couple over here, this fortress piece that we see here, this dome, this is part of the fortress of Przemyśl, depending on how you want to pronounce it. This was a very important fortress in the eastern front of Austria-Hungary, what is today Ukraine. Now, this fortress was besieged by Russian soldiers, and I need to tell you a little bit about the experience of the average soldier in such a fortress. So you have to imagine the conditions there. You're being shelled every day and every night. So you're not getting any sleep because it's a constant bombardment at all times. Yeah? There's no fresh water. There is no fresh food. There are no new clothing. There is dirt everywhere. You can't sleep, like I said. There are rats everywhere. There are comrades dying next to you. There's no place to bury them at one. And it goes on for weeks, for months. Some sieges even can last years, these battles. It's terrible. It destroys the body, the physical part, but also the psychological part of these people. They are taken apart by these sieges. And it gets even worse for the Austrian soldiers, because at Przemyśl, there are mostly Hungarians and Poles there, commanded by German officers who don't speak Ukrainian, who don't speak Polish. So if we imagine here, let's do an example. You lot over here, you all speak Ukrainian. You all speak Polish, you maybe all speak Hungarian, over there's some Romanians. I speak German. How do I give you orders? Impossible, except if I have someone translating for me. So I'd have one translator next to me who speaks German and Ukrainian maybe. And so he would speak to you guys. I would give my order, he would translate it, and you'd get the order. But you speak Polish, you don't speak Ukrainian. So there'd be another translator for my translator who'd speak Ukrainian and Polish, and he'd translate the next order. And then there'd be one guy who speaks Romanian and Polish, right? And so he'd translate that on. So I say an order, it goes through one translator, the next translator, the next translator. It takes a while to reach you guys. What if you want to say something back? Well, it goes through the entire chain again back up to me. It's complete chaos. It doesn't work, right? The morale is shattered because you can't even talk to each other, and you're all living in this miserable experience in this fortress, right? So it's terrible. It destroys the people, and especially for Austria-Hungary, this is so hard because they're such a multi-ethnic empire. They can't communicate with each other. Good. Let me tell you one more thing. Those are the lucky guys. Lucky guys? Well, they live in the fortress, yeah? Because the opposite of the fortress is to live in one of these trenches here, to fight in one of these trenches here. This is a mock-up of a trench that we have. It's very cramped in there, so I'll ask you to walk through then in a moment. But I'll tell you one more thing before you guys walk through this trench and try to experience how a trench looked like. I don't like this exhibition. I don't like the trench. Why don't I like the trench? Because you're not suffering while you walk through this trench. While you walk through this trench, you should imagine mud going up to around here. You should imagine rats scurrying around. You should imagine your comrades lying on the top of this trench in barbed wire, dead for days, for weeks, rotting away. You should imagine yourself hungry, starving. You should imagine yourself thirsty. You should imagine yourself so tired because you haven't slept all day. You slept actually in a mud hut underneath the trench. It is miserable. As you walk through here, it's nice, it's clean, it's a museum, right? It's not the experience. I mean, obviously we can't give you that experience. I think that'd be highly illegal if we walked through that real trench experience, but keep that in mind maybe, how terrible it was to be in one of those trenches. So, I'll ask you all to walk through here, look at the exhibitions that we have in there. I'll meet you on the other side, so just walk through here.